Everyone, this is Norma with All My Crafts, and today I have another crochet tutorial for you. I'm going to show you how to make these cute little party dresses. And this one is made in pink and the waistline is in black, and it has a little puff flower. The stitch we are going to make is a puff stitch, and it is not hard or difficult to do, so very easy to do. And I'm going to show you step by step on how to make this puff stitch. Okay, so I'm going to show you the different colors that I've made, and then I'll show you the yarn that I'm going to use. So I have that one. I made this white and pink one. And there's the flower. You can see the flower better on this one. It's white and pink. I also made this one, which is some yellow yarn. I think the yarn I used on this was a sweet roll from Joanne. So I made it with this one. And this yarn here was from Hobby Lobby. This is, I love this yarn. And as you can see, it came out really, really pretty, all in white. Okay, and very nice. Then I also made this white and pink one right here. So let me get the yarn and show you what we're going to use to make these. So today I'm going to use the Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo. Now, obviously, this is a lot of yarn, so you're going to have a lot left over. But I got this at Walmart on clearance. I think I got this one when it was $3 on clearance. So we're going to use this one, and it is a size, let's see, it's a 4 medium weight yarn, and the color is called Pastel Pink. We are also going to use a crochet hook size G, which is a 4.25 hook. Okay, now to start the dress, we need a chain of 32. So I've already done that. I got my chain right here. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to do a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. Skip the first chain, go to the second one. So to do a half double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch in the second chain from the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And that gives us our first half double crochet. We need 5 of them, so that's number 1. We're going to go to the next stitch, so we yarned over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. That's 2. And this is 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we have 5 half double crochets to start with. Now in the next stitch, we're going to work a cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. So yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So that's 1. And we're going to do that 2 more times into the same stitch. So we have a total of 3 half double crochets all in that same stitch. And then again, we're going to work 5 half double crochets in the next 5 chains. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next stitch, we're going to work our cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch, 2 and 3. We're going to work 7 half double crochets in the next 7 chains. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Next, we're going to work a cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. That's 2 and 3. Now we're working 5 half double crochets again in the next 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And in the next stitch, let me try that one again. This is the number 5. Okay, in the next stitch, we're going to work a cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch, 2 and 3. And now in the last 5 stitches, we're working 1 half double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're done with row number 1. Okay, let me show you what we have here. This is what we have for row number 1. Okay, so this is the back of the dress, side of the dress, and this is the front of the dress right there. And in row number 1, you should have a total of 39 stitches. Yes, 39. Okay, so we're going to start row 2, and I'm going to do a chain 1, turn my work over, and we're going to do in the next 6 stitches 1 half double crochet. So I did my chain 1, turned my work, and in this very first stitch we're going to do a half double crochet. So we need 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so now in the next stitch, which happens to be the middle stitch of the cluster we did in the previous row, okay, so in that next stitch, okay, we're going to do a cluster again of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. That's 2 and 3. Now in the next 7 stitches, we're working 1 half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7. Now in the next stitch, we're going to work the cluster again of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. Okay, now next in the next 11 stitches, we're working 1 half double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm sorry, it was in the next 9 stitches, not 11. The next row is going to be 11. This one was 9 stitches. Okay, so let's repeat this again just so it's not confusing. In this second row, we started with 6 half double crochets. Then we did a cluster of 3 half double crochets. Then we did 7 half double crochets. Then we did the cluster of 3 half double crochets. And then we did 9 half double crochets. And now we're going to work the cluster of 3 half double crochets in the same stitch. 2 and 3. Okay, now on this side we're going to work again 7 half double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then in the next stitch we're going to work the cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. That's 2 and 3. Now in the next 6 stitches we're working 1 half double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 6. Okay, so we're done with row number 2. Let me show you what we have right here. Pick that up so you can see it. So that's row number 2, and you should have a total of 47 stitches. So now we're going to start row number 3. I'm going to do my chain 1. I'm going to turn my work over, and we're going to start crocheting 7 half double crochets in the next 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So now in the next stitch we're going to work the cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. In the next 9 stitches we're working a half double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now we're working the cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. Okay, now in this row it's 11 half double crochets. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Next stitch, we're going to work a cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. Okay. Now we're going to work 9 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Next stitch, we're going to work a cluster of 3 half double crochets into the same stitch. 2 and 3. Now in the next 7 stitches, we're working 1 half double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and number 7. Okay, so we're done with row number 3. And that's what it's looking like. Kind of pulling it. Okay, that's what row 3 looks like. And you should have a total of 55 stitches. Now we're going to work on row number 4. So I'm doing my chain 1. I'm turning my work over. And we're going to half double crochet into the next 9 stitches. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the 9th stitch is in that cluster from the previous row in that middle stitch. So that's number 9. Okay, now we're going to form the armhole. So to do that, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to skip 11 stitches, and in the 12th stitch we're going to do a half double crochet. So you want to make sure you don't count the stitch where this last one is, so you want to go over to the next stitch. So we're going to count 11 stitches, and then in the 12th one we're going to do the half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in that 12th one, we're doing a half double crochet. And that 12th stitch happens to be the center of that cluster right there. Okay, so that's the 12 stitches. So this is the armhole that we created. Now, this is the front of the dress right here, and we're going to do a half double crochet all the way across, and we should have 15 half double crochets. So this one right here is counting as number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Now this 15th one again is in that middle chain of the cluster from the previous row. So you have 15 half double crochets. Now we're going to chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3, because we're going to form the other armhole. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to skip 11 stitches, and in that 12th one, we're going to do a half double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in that 12th one right here, we're going to work a half double crochet. And if you notice, again, it's in that middle cluster, in that middle chain from the cluster from the previous row. Okay, so now going across here, we should have 9 half double crochets. This one right here is counting as number 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and number 9. Okay, so we're done with row. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. That was row number 4. Let me turn this over so you can see what it's looking like. So this is the front of the dress right here. Got the armhole here and the armhole here, and this is the back of the dress right here. Okay, so now we're going to start row number 5. Okay, so now we're going to do a chain 1, turn our work over, and row number 5 is very simple. All you're going to do is do a half double crochet all the way across, and row number 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, yeah, row number 4, we should have a total of 39 stitches again. So when you finish row number 5, you should have the same 39 stitches. So I did my chain 1, turned my work, and in this very first stitch we're going to start with our half double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I wanted to mention this to you because if you remember when we did row number 4, we had 9 half double crochets. Okay, so now when we're doing row number 5 and I did it all the way across, it seems like we have 8, but that's not really the case. What it is that 9th stitch is right over here. It looks like a chain, but that 9th stitch is right here. So you want to make sure that you get that. Okay, so now we have 9. It's just the way that it looks. It looks like it's a chain, but it's not, because we still have 3 chains now. We have 1, 2, 3, the 3 chains that we did when we were forming the armhole. So don't forget that stitch right there. So I usually turn my stitches over so that I can see them. So I'm going to continue to work these half double crochets across to the end. And again, this is row number 5, and at the end of row 5 you should still have 39 stitches. Okay, so I'll meet you at the end of row 5. So I've completed row number 5, and I just want to show you how to count the rows, because you can see the rows. You know, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's very easy to count these rows. I've just completed row number 5, and I have 39 stitches. And don't worry about it. Sometimes, you know, people will make a mistake and, you know, have a stitch less or more, and it really doesn't matter because this pattern is very forgiving. So I've done it before, so it's not a big deal. You don't have to rip everything apart and start over. The only thing that, you know, I want to make sure is that these armholes are correctly centered. So that's really it. After that, you don't have to worry about how many stitches, but I'm just letting you know how many I have. Okay, so now we're going to start row number 6. Now row number 6, 7, and 8 are going to be the exact same thing. It's very similar to row number 5. All we're going to do is 1 half double crochet in each stitch across. So I did my chain 1, I turned my work over, and all I'm doing is doing a half double crochet all the way across. So this row is going to be a lot easier because you're not dealing with those, you know, chains here in the where the armhole is. So this is going to be a very easy row. So number 6, 7, and 8 are going to be the exact same thing. 1 half double crochet in each stitch. Okay, so very simple. So I'm going to continue that, and again you're going to go all the way across, okay, to the end, and then you're going to do a chain 1 and go all the way across, and we're going to do that up to row number 8. So again, you're going to count your rows from the top all the way down, and when you get to row number 8, I'll meet you back there. So I've completed row number 8 right here, and I'm just going to show you what this is looking like. Here we go. It's the front of the dress, and then the back of the dress. Now we're going to work on row number 9. Now if you want to change colors, you can do it at this point. I'm not changing colors today, but I just wanted to show you right here. Row number 9, which we're going to work next, I changed the color on this dress to black. So if you want to do just, you know, a row of a different color in the waist, then you can do that. So it's totally up to you. But I'm going to continue to go on with the pink. And if you wanted to change colors, you're more than welcome to. So now in row number 9, it's going to be a very simple row as well. All we're going to do is do a chain 1, turn our work over, and we're going to do just a single crochet in every stitch across, starting with that very first one. So again, just a single crochet. Very simple, very easy. Okay. So I'm going to continue to do my single crochets all the way across, and then I'll meet you at the end of row number 9. And I'm sorry if you hear Bronco snoring. He is here with me. It's about 1 o'clock, 1:20 in the morning actually, and he seems to be sleeping and snoring, so you might hear him in the video. So sorry about that in advance. So I'll meet you here at the end of row number 9. So I've completed row number 9. I'm here at the end, and now we're going to close these 2 pieces up. So in order to close this, all we're going to do is slip stitch to that very first half double crochet that we started the row with. Okay, so I'm just simply inserting my hook into that stitch, into that first stitch we started the row, and I'm pulling up my yarn and pulling through. And this is going to close it up right here. Okay, so this is going to close the dress up. And now what I do, I know I've gotten questions, there's no buttonhole. There isn't. All I do is sew a button up here and sew a button down here. And then the button will go through the stitches. So you got to make sure you have a button that's going to fit through these stitches. Okay, right here or wherever you put the button. You just got to make sure that it goes through these stitches right here. Okay, so that's all I do is just sew 2 buttons up to here, you know, on here. That's totally up to you. If you want 2, 3, that's up to you. So this is what it's looking like after row number 9. Okay, so now we're going to start row number 10, and row number 10 is going to start the puff stitch. And believe me, the puff stitch is not difficult at all. So this is how we're going to start each row of the puff stitch. Okay, so we're going to start with a chain of 3, and this chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So now in that same stitch right here where we did the slip stitch and where we're doing the chain 3, in that same stitch we're going to work 3 more double crochets. I wanted to say half because I'm so used to saying half, but we're going to work 3 double crochets right there. So we have a total of 4 double crochets. Okay, now I put this back in because I want to show you what we're going to do now. I'm pulling the stitch up just a little bit so I don't lose it, because I'm going to take my crochet hook out and I'm going to go to that top of the 3rd chain here that we made, and I'm putting my crochet hook in there. Then I'm going to take this stitch and I'm going to put it on the hook, and then I'm going to pull on the yarn to tighten it up on my hook. Tighten that stitch up, and all we're going to do is a slip stitch. And right there is your puff stitch. Very easy. Then we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Okay. Now we're going to skip the next stitch right here. We're skipping this one. and we're going to the next stitch and we're going to work 4 double crochets into the same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we got 4 into the same stitch right there. Now I'm pulling up the stitch just a little bit so I don't lose it, taking my crochet hook out. I'm going to go to that very first double crochet. Now as you can see, I got the 2 little loops on there. Okay, that's my first double crochet I made. Now I'm going to put the stitch back on. I'm going to pull on my yarn to tighten it on my hook, and then I'm going to slip stitch. And there's your puff stitch right there. Then we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. We're going to skip the next stitch, go to this next one after that, and we're going to work again 4 double crochets into the same stitch. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I pulled the stitch up, took my crochet hook out. I'm going to that very first stitch. I'm going to put this stitch back on my hook. I'm going to pull on it to tighten up the stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch. And there's your puff stitch. Chain 2. 1, 2. Skipping this one, going to the next one, and we're going to work 4 double crochets. Now to work a double crochet, I should have showed you earlier, but all you do is yarn over, insert the hook in the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. And that's your double crochet. And we need to work again 4 double crochets into the same stitch. Pulling up my loop so I don't lose it or my stitch, taking my crochet hook out, going to the first one, inserting it, putting this stitch back on the crochet hook, tightening it up, and I'm doing a slip stitch. Chain 2. So this is again a very, very easy puff stitch, and so far we have 4 of them right here. So we're going to skip this one, go to the next one, and we're going to work 4 double crochets. I don't know why I keep trying to say half, because it's not, it's double. So 4 double crochets. Okay, pulling up my stitch so I don't lose it, going to the first one, inserting my hook, putting the stitch back on the hook, tightening it by pulling on the yarn, and then doing a slip stitch and chain 2. 1, 2. Again, yarn over, skip this one, go to the next one, and work 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull up my stitch so I don't lose it. I'm inserting my crochet hook into that first stitch. And I just want to show you a little trick that I do. I don't know if it'll help you, but what I do is I take this finger here and I put it behind the stitch right here. Okay, well, I'm going to put this on the hook first. Okay, I'm going to tighten my stitch, but I put my finger back here behind the stitch. Okay, I put it back here. So it's easier if you're, putting your finger where behind those 4 stitches. So when you're doing your slip stitch, it's easier for you to do that. At least it is for me. So I don't know if that'll work for you or not. So we're going to do a chain of 2. Okay, then I'm yarning over because I'm going to get ready for my next one. Skip this one and then go into the next one, and we're going to work again 4 double crochets. This is 3 and 4. Okay, pulling up my stitch, taking my crochet hook out, inserting into that first one, putting my stitch back on, pulling on it. I'm putting my finger back here behind the 4 stitches and then pulling through with a slip stitch, chain 2. So I'm going to continue to do that all the way around, okay? And I'll meet you here at the end. So I'm almost done with row number 10. I have 2 more stitches left, as you can see. So again, I did my chain 2 here, and I'm skipping this one, and I'm going into that very last one and working my cluster right there. So I'm going to work my 4 double crochets into that last stitch. Okay, going to that first one, putting my hook in, and then pulling through and doing my chain 2. So now what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch over here, just in the back of this puff stitch right here. I'm going to just do 1 slip stitch right through there. Okay, so we're done with row number 10. Okay, so that's what it's looking like. Okay, so now to start row number 11, and this is really going to be the same. It's going to be the repeat of this throughout the dress. We're going to continue for a few more rows to do the chain 2 between each stitch like we've been doing, and then eventually we'll do a chain 3 just to open the dress out up a little bit at the bottom. Okay, so now to start row number 11, all I'm going to do now, it's going to be a little bit easier. All you're going to do is slip stitch to this chain 2 right here. Okay, so I'm slip stitching. Okay, and then I'm going to chain 3 because we're going to start our next row. And remember, in each row that we begin, we're going to start off with the chain 3, which is counting as your first double crochet. And then we're going to work 3 more double crochets, and now we're doing it just in the space. So it becomes a little bit easier because you don't have to be skipping a stitch or anything like that. And all we're doing it is just in each open space. So I have my 4 double crochets going to that first one again, putting my stitch on and slip the stitch. So we're going to do 2, 1, chain 2. Now we're going to go to the next opening and we're going to do the same thing, just 4 double crochets into that next opening. That's 3 and 4. So I'm pulling up my stitch, taking my crochet hook out, going to that first stitch, putting my crochet hook or my stitch back on, pulling on this to tighten the stitch, and do a slip stitch. Chain 2, 1, 2. Going to the next opening and working 4 double crochets. So this becomes very easy, and there's no more counting rows. And I think I should have mentioned it, but I think I have 20 puff stitches. So if you end up with 20, 21, it's not a big deal at this point. It doesn't matter. But I ended up with 20 puff stitches. So I have my 4 double crochets here. I'm going to that first stitch, putting my stitch back on the hook, tightening that up, and doing a slip stitch. Chain 2. Okay, and then we're going to go to the next opening and just work again 4 double crochets. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do that all the way around, and I'll meet you here at the end of row. This is row number 11. This row here was 10. So to count these, it's going to start going like this when you're counting your row. So this is 10, and we're started row number 11. So I'll meet you here at the end of row 11. Just finishing row number 11. So all I'm going to do is do a slip stitch to that very first puff stitch we started the row with. Okay, and there we go. We have row 10 and 11 done right here, and this is what it's looking like. It's looking very, very pretty, as you can see. It's a very, very easy stitch. So now we're going to start row 12, and row 12, 13, and 14 are going to be the exact same thing. We're going to do the puff stitch, chain 2, puff stitch, chain 2, all the way up to row 14. Now, if you look here, I just want you to be aware. Now, we're going to start row number 12, 10, 11. Yeah, to start row number 12, we're going to slip stitch to the next space over here. Okay. Now, if you've noticed, we keep moving over. So as we do each row, we're moving over a stitch. So don't worry about that. That's going to be fine. So we're starting row 12, we're ending here. So when we start row 13, we're going to start over here, and it's just going to keep moving over because we're just going between each space and slip stitching over to the next space. Okay, so to begin the row again, we slip stitch right there. We're going to do a chain 3, which is counting as our double crochet. And then in that first one, we're going to work 3 additional double crochets, so we have a total of 4. Pulling up the stitch, going into that first double crochet, inserting my hook, putting the stitch back on, pulling on it to tighten that up, and then doing a slip stitch. Chain 2, 1, 2. Okay, go to the next one, and we're going to continue doing 4 double crochets. 2, 3, and 4. Go to that first stitch and pull on it. Chain 2, and then again repeat. Just 4 double crochets into that next space. That's 3 and 4. Okay, and we're going to work the puff stitch now. So that's it for row number 12, 13, and 14. So really all the rows were the same. 10, 11, 12 through 14, you're doing the puff stitch, chain 2, going to the next space, puff stitch, chain 2, all the way around. To begin the row, we're slip stitching over to the next opening, doing a chain 3, then working 3 additional double crochets so that we have a total of 4, and then doing our puff stitch. So I'm going to continue to do this up to row number 14, and I'll meet you here at row number 14. So I've completed row number 14, as you can see right here. This is where I ended up. Okay, we started over here, and as you know, it's going along the way right there because we keep slip stitching over to the next stitch when we start the new row. Okay, so this is row number 14. Let me turn it over so you can see what the front looks like. And this is what it's looking like right here. As you can see, look how pretty that puff stitch is coming out. And the way that I count my rows, now I know when we started the puff stitch, it was row 10. So we have 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, so we're at row 14, so we're going to start row number 15. And row number 15, 16 are the same, and you can do row 17. And row 17, well, let me explain it, okay? Because we're going to really do the same thing, except now between the stitches, you know how we did the chain 2, we're going to do a chain 3 for row 15 and 16. And I only did up to row 17, so you have to measure it on your doll to see how many rows you need. It all depends on the yarn, because some yarns are thicker. This one seems to be, you know, a fairly medium-sized yarn. So I did this one. I'm going to do this one up to row 17, and I think that should be good enough. Now, if you have a yarn that's a 4 medium weight, but it's a little bit thinner, you might need to add an extra row. So measure on your doll, see what you like as far as the length, and continue. Now, up to row 14 here, we did a chain 2. Okay, after we did the puff stitch, we did the chain 2. So now, okay, we're going to do a chain of 3. So that's all that changes, is just the chains. So now I'm going to slip stitch to that next space right there. I'm going to do my chain 3. That counts as my first double crochet. And then I'm going to do, again, 4, or actually in this first one, 3 double crochets. That chain 3 counts as the 4th one. So I'm pulling up the stitch, going to that first one, putting my stitch back on, tightening it, pulling through, and now we have the puff stitch. So in row number 15, we're going to do a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to go over to the next opening, and we're going to do the puff stitch all over again. So we're going to do 4 double crochets. Okay, pulled up my stitch, took my crochet hook out, going to that first one, putting my stitch back on, slip stitching, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then going to the next one, and we're going to create again another cluster with 4 double crochets. Going to that first stitch, putting that on, and pulling through, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's really the only thing that changed with row number 15 is we're doing a chain 3, and what that allows it to do is it allows it to open up at the bottom a little bit wider. Okay, so row number 15 and 16, I'm doing the chain 3. Row number 17, I'm going to do a chain of 4. So that opens it up just a little bit more at the end of row number 17. But you don't necessarily have to. If you want to continue with the chain 3, that's fine. That's totally up to you. So I'm going to continue to do this up to row number 16, and then when I get to row 17, I'll come right back to you. So again, I did my chain 3 right here. So I'm doing my next puff stitch, and we're going to do 4 double crochets. That's 3 and 4. Going to that stitch, creating our puff, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Going to the next one, and we're going to continue doing this. So we're going to continue to do this. I'm doing the chain 3 up to row number 16, and I'll meet you here at the end of row 16. So here I finished row number 16. We can count here. This is number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And this is where I'm at here. Like I mentioned, as we go along, the stitch is going to move over because we keep slip stitching to the next one over. So we're going to do our last row of the dress. Now again, it all depends on your yarn. With this yarn, which is the Red Heart, I'm doing up to row number 17. Now the dress that I use, this one is from Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn. And on this one, I did 17 as well. Okay, now some of these other dresses, this is a 4 medium weight yarn as well, but the yarn is definitely much thinner, okay, when I work. So let me count these rows. So this is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So on this one, I did 19 rows because I like the way that it fit. And again, this yarn is much thinner. So you'll have to measure it on your doll and depending on the yarn that you used. And I don't remember the brand. This one could have been, I think this was from Joanne, and I think it was a brand called Sensations, and it was like a sparkly one they had a few years ago. And I got it some on clearance, so that's what I used on this one. I don't think you can find it anymore, so that's why I didn't want to make it in this because I can't find it anymore. I wanted to make sure I used some yarn that you could find in the store, so that's why I decided to go with the Red Heart. So now we're going to start row number 17. So row number 17, it's really going to be a puff stitch, and now instead of the chain 3, I'm going to do the chain 4, because what that does is it opens it up a little bit here at the bottom. So it opens it up just a little bit more, okay? So to start row 17 again, we're going to go to the next space over and do a slip stitch, do a chain 3 to begin the row, counts as a double crochet, and then we're going to continue with 3 more double crochets so that we have a total of 4. Then I'm going to go into that first stitch, put my stitch back on and do a slip stitch, and we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to go to the next opening and we're going to continue to work our puff stitch. So that's the only difference. This is the last row. I'm not doing any edging because I don't think this dress needs it. I think it's perfect just the way that it is. I mean, if you wanted to do a little edging, then you're more than welcome to. That's totally up to you. That's 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to the next one. So here we got 4 double crochets. Going to that first one, slip stitching, chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I'll meet you at the end of row number 17. So I just finished row number 17, and again we did the puff stitch and 4 chain stitches. So now to close this, all I'm going to do, since I just slip stitch, all I'm going to do is do an extra stitch, pull on it, and then I'm going to cut my yarn right here. And we're done. Let me show you what it's looking like. Look how beautiful that came out. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love this dress. I'm calling this my party dress because I just love all these puff stitches. And of course you're going to sew in your end. This is the back of the dress. You're going to add 2 buttons here, and it's just going to close with these post stitches right here. So you can add 2 or 3 buttons. That's totally up to you, but I think it just came out beautiful. Now I'm going to show you how to make the little flower for your dress. It's going to be a little puff flower. Okay, so I'm using a crochet hook size F for the flower. Okay, so to make the flower, I'm going to do a magic circle. And the way that I do it is I simply take my yarn and wrap it around my finger like that. Okay, insert my hook, pull up the yarn, and to start the puff flower, again, it's really the same stitch that we did on the dress, except we're going to do it in this circle here. So to start off, we're going to do a chain of 3, which is counting as our first double crochet. Let me just pick this so you can see it a little better. Okay, so we did a chain 3, and then we're going to work, instead of 4 like we did on the dress, I'm only doing 3 because it's a flower, and obviously it needs to be a little bit smaller so it can fit on the dress. So we're only doing a total of 3 double crochets. So I have the chain 3 counts as the first one, then I did 2 more double crochets. So we're going to do the same thing. Okay, we're pulling up the stitch, going into that first double crochet, inserting our hook, and then putting the stitch back on, pull on that, and then we're going to do a slip stitch. Okay, and there's your little puff flower. Okay, so we're going to do again a chain of 2. So now we're going to do that again. We're going to work again 3 double crochets for the flower. 2 and 3. Oh, yeah, 3. So there's my 3 double crochet. I'm going into that first stitch, putting this back on, pulling on it, and doing a slip stitch. And then we're going to chain 2. 1 and 2. So that's our second puff stitch flower. Now it looks a little bit open, wide right here at the bottom, but don't worry about that. When we close it up, it'll work out. So we're going to do it again. We're going to do a total of 6. So now I'm going again into this circle here, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. 1. If you want to do 4, you're more than welcome to do 4. The flower will be a little bit bigger if you like it to be that way. That's fine. Doesn't really matter. But I'm doing 3. So I'm going into that stitch right there, right here, and I'm doing a slip stitch. Chain 2. 1, 2. So now we have 3 puff stitches. Okay, so we're going to work again. Oh, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, pulling up the stitch, going into that first one, putting the stitch back on, and then we're going to do a slip stitch. Chain 2. So we have 4. So we're going to go again, and we're going to do 3 double crochets. Okay, pulling up the stitch, going into that first one, putting the stitch back on, tightening it, and doing the slip stitch, chain 2. So now we have a total of 5. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do one more. You can do 5, you can do 6. That's totally up to you of how many you want to do. But I'm going to do 6. So I'm doing 1, 2, 3 double crochets, pulling up the stitch, going into that first one, putting the stitch back on, tightening it, and doing a slip stitch, and do 1, 2. Okay, now we're going to close this up. So all I'm going to do is on this string right here, I'm going to pull on it so that it closes it up. Okay, and then I'm going to go to this first one and we're going to do a slip stitch to close it. So all I'm doing is going back here, grabbing my yarn, and we're going to do a slip stitch right there, and then I'm going to do a chain, and I'm just going to pull on it, and we're done. Now I'm going to give this a little pull so we have a little bit of string there, and I'm going to cut. Okay, I'm going to pull my yarn out. So this is what we have right now. It's not looking like much, but I'm going to take this string and I'm going to continue to pull on it. This is the front. I'm going to continue to pull on this to close it up. Okay, so this is what the flower is looking like now. Okay, so we have this string right here and we have this one right here. Now I want to get this string to the other side. So I have one on this side. I want to get one string to the other side. So all I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this crochet hook. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over here just so that, and all I'm doing is grabbing this yarn with my crochet hook and pulling it through one of these stitches. So now it's on this side. So this one right here, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to just grab one of these stitches right here and I'm going to pull this through there. Okay. And then you can tighten it up however you like. And there's your little puff flower. Okay. You can kind of push these out some if you want it to be a little more. But there is your little flower right there. So then all I do is I take this and I attach it. So now if you want to make this flower a different color, if you like this one's all pink, you could make the flower white. That's totally up to you, but I just made it the same color. So all I do is just put it through one of these, holes right here. Just kind of move some stitches around and just put it through. Put it through on this end right here. And then pull it out. And it's right here, as you can see. Okay, and then in the back, all I do is take these two ends and I tie them. Okay, I'll give it a couple of knots. That's 2 and 3. And of course you'll cut those ends right there, but there's your little flower right there. Cute and simple. And again, if you want to make it a different color, you're more than welcome to make it a different color. So this is what the dress is looking like. Okay, get this out of the way so that you can see the different. Of course, you want to sew that end in right there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have this dress. I have all these dresses here. Now, I'm selling them at the craft show. The craft show will be ending at the end of August. And I'm sure I'll have some left over. But if you guys see any of these dresses that you want to purchase from me, just send me an email. I will leave my email in the description. And if you want to buy one of these dresses, I will be more than happy to sell it to you. Now, when I make these dresses, I will sell the whole outfit. It's just not the dress. So you will get the dress, the crown, the purse, and the shoes, and I will sell the whole thing, shipping included, for $20 via PayPal, and that's for the US. If you're out of the country, I'm not sure how much shipping and handling will be. I don't know if it would be worth it to you or not. But if you live in the US, I will do it through PayPal, and it will be $20 shipped for the dress, the crown, the purse, and the shoes. So if you see any of these dresses that you would like to purchase, let me know. Send me an email. I will leave my email in the description, and I will be more than happy to sell it to you. But I showed you how to make it. Very easy and very simple. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I just want to say thank you to all my subscribers. I did the first giveaway for the outfit, and it was Cindy Marsh who won it, and that's already been shipped out to her. And I hope some little girl is happy with her crocheted outfit. I will be doing more giveaways of my dresses, and that will be coming. I'm going to do other giveaways, yarn, and kind of just like a little kit where I'm going to do a book, maybe a crochet hook, and some yarn. So I have plans to do other giveaways. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification button so you can get updates of my video. And I just want to say thank you and good night. Bye.